He walked into the small-town diner like any other customer, unshaven, wearing an old jacket, no one suspecting that beneath the faded clothes was one of the wealthiest men in the country. The waitress barely noticed him at first. She had learned to read faces, to sense who would treat her kindly and who would not. Yet something about his eyes made her pause. He was watching quietly, observing how others were treated, how the manager's tone changed when speaking to her. When she placed his cup of coffee down, her hands trembled slightly. She slipped a folded napkin beneath it, her heart pounding. One sentence written in tiny letters, just enough to stop him cold. What could a simple note from a stranger reveal about everything we pretend not to see? Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Her name was Alana, 26 years old, single mother, working double shifts in a roadside diner just outside Atlanta. To most customers, she was invisible, another uniform, another tired smile behind a counter. But every day she fought quiet battles, the lingering stares, the dismissive voices, the subtle reminders that some people still believed she didn't belong where she stood. The diner was known for its charm, vintage booths, checkered floors, the kind of place tourists love to photograph. But behind the glossy photos were whispered insults and the unspoken rule that black staff stayed in the background. On that cold Tuesday morning, Alana had no idea that the man at table 6 wasn't just another traveler. He was a billionaire, traveling incognito to study how his company's new program for local businesses was working. What he'd find inside that diner would shake him to his core. From his corner seat, Ethan Royce, the billionaire, watched quietly. He had built his fortune on innovation and public goodwill, convinced his wealth was helping communities grow. But what he witnessed that morning painted a different picture. When a white couple walked in, the manager rushed to greet them, smiling and shaking hands. When Alana approached their table, his tone shifted. "Let someone else handle that," he muttered, pretending she hadn't heard. Ethan saw the way her shoulders tensed, the way she kept her voice steady. She served without complaint, but her eyes told a story of exhaustion and quiet pain. He noticed more. How tips disappeared from her counter when she wasn't looking. How coworkers rolled their eyes when she spoke. And when a table of regulars joked loudly about people like her, no one said a word. Alana's son was waiting at home with his grandmother, dreaming of becoming a doctor one day. She worked 12-hour shifts to make sure he had what he needed. Yet every day she swallowed her pride to survive. When Ethan finished his meal, she thanked him softly and turned to leave. That's when he saw her hand tremble as she placed the check and a folded napkin beside his cup. She didn't look back. He opened it slowly, expecting a thank you note. Instead, his stomach dropped. On that napkin were 9 words that pierced straight through the wall of privilege he'd lived behind. "They smile at you. They bleed me." He read it twice, his heart pounding. Around him, laughter and music played as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Ethan stayed seated long after she walked away, staring at the napkin as if it were an indictment written in invisible ink. In that moment, every dollar he'd earned, every speech he'd given about equality and opportunity, felt hollow. He realized he had spent years funding progress while ignoring the human cost beneath polite society's surface. He watched Alana from across the diner, how she smiled at a customer who ignored her, how she wiped the same table twice to avoid tears. Her resilience wasn't just strength, it was survival. As he stood to leave, a silence settled over him. He placed the payment on the counter, a simple receipt that included a tip large enough to change her life. But it wasn't charity. It was a responsibility. Outside, the winter wind hit his face, sharp and cleansing. For the first time, he didn't feel powerful. He felt accountable. 2 days later, the diner closed unexpectedly. A formal complaint had reached corporate headquarters, and an internal investigation began. Within weeks, policies changed, managers replaced, and a quiet revolution started among the staff. Alana was offered a scholarship from a foundation she'd never heard of, a foundation founded by Ethan Royce as part of a new initiative for workplace equity. He never revealed himself to her. She only knew that someone, somewhere, had listened. Months passed, and the diner reopened under new management. This time, every employee, regardless of race, was given equal pay and respect. Alana moved forward, continuing her studies in social work, determined to become the voice for others who couldn't speak. Ethan, on the other hand, began visiting towns not as an investor, but as a student of humanity. That napkin never left his desk, a reminder that empathy isn't a policy. It's a choice. The truth is, racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers behind a smile. The question is, when you see it, will you turn away or do something that matters? Which country and city are you watching from? Take care.